Hello and welcome to Undrafted, a Dynasty game theory podcast brought to you by the Undroppables. I am your host, Scott Belanger, aka Jax Falcone. You can find me on Twitter at Dino Game Theory. This is episode number 220. Let's roll. Sorry about the missed show last week. And actually, if you're joining us on YouTube, which is sort of a couple episodes in, sorry for missing 2 weeks, as we did just release the Chalk Pod on just a pod only. So no YouTube there. But I'm back. I am finishing up a few startups. It is startup season. I think we're going to hear a little bit about that with my guest this week, who's got a lot of questions for me, actually. Kind of a fun way we do this show every single time. He's a true pro. I am here to introduce to you and to bring out my very, very good friend, Mr. Nic Bodiford. Nick, what is going on, my brother?
Hey, Jax. How are you? It's good to be here.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
It's good to see you, too. So that when you guys did the Jax or the Jax show, the Chalk show,
yes,
we were a few rounds into a new startup that he invited me into. And yes. If I shouldn't tell this story, he smoked me so bad. I bookmarked this. I wanted to tell you about this. I didn't put this in the show sheet.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
So I'm trying to pull off, Chalk's Art of Dynasty ideas. You're trading back from the first round and the second round into the 3 through 5, ideally 3 through 5, but really 3 through 9 while getting future picks. And I sent him something, man. It was like I'm trying to trade back from, I think this was the second round pick. We got all these trades. I'm like trying to scroll back. I should have friggin' bookmarked this, but
let me preface this by saying that we have been talking about this very phenomenon on the Dynasty Underground, which you should go check out. Go check out Dynasty Underground right on this very channel with me, Trav, and Joe. But we've been talking about this, how with the sort of people following the Art of Dynasty, the Ryan McDowell article, Productive Struggle from years ago, the Jax approach, the whole thing, it's harder and harder to trade back. And so when sometimes you get involved in these trade back offers, you start to think you're crazy because nobody's giving you anything to do it. And so maybe I have an inkling that's what happened here, but go ahead, Nick, tell us what happened to you. I'm so sorry. Do you need to be held? Do you need are you going to be okay telling this story?
It was so he, this is what it was. So I'm trying to move back from my 307 and I was looking to get, it was a 6th rounder and a 2026 first. And he's like, not happening. And he's countering and he's going, he's going to give me an 8th rounder and a 2027 first. And I'm really caught up on, one, not losing a trade to Chalk, and two, that I want the first round pick to be like in 2026. I didn't want to, 2027 was like, that's, bothering me. I'm not taking that. We go back and forth on this for a long time. And I know that he gets frustrated because I decline it and I choose, I just make the pick. Actually, no, I traded. So I traded it. I think I got the 6th, but I traded it for like a 2026 second and a 2027 second. And he's in my DMs and he's like,
so upset.
Really? So you prefer 2 seconds to a first? That's interesting. And I'm like, well, I just wanted something in 2026. And people are starting to chime in the chat. And he chimes in and he's like, yeah, I tried to get it. I even offered the rare Chalk overpay, but no go. And I'm like, oh my God, he's roasting me. And so,
that's great.
So
yes.
So this was
flexing on you a little bit just for no good reason. Dude, yes, that's so much fun.
So just wait. So then this was for my 307 that I was trying to pull this off. We get around into the next round in the 4th. And he somehow has the 407, which he trades for a 6th and a future first in 2026. He gets actually no, it was the 7th. It was a 7th.
Gets your trade,
but he gets my trade that he wouldn't give to me that I was asking him for, and I'm like, I DM him and I'm like, I go, did I inspire you? And he just sends back the Michael Jordan gif of going, and I took that personally. And I'm like, oh my god, dude. He fucking, one, he chimed in with the rare chalk overpay, and then 2, he goes and he gets the trade that he would not give to me. And I kind of asked him, it was funny because I asked him like, all right, so how'd you pull this off? And he walks me through it, and I won't reveal his what he did and everything. But it was funny because you guys must have recorded the show like the next day, because then he's saying this thing on the show, and he's like, yeah, sometimes people ask me like how I pull these trades off, and I'm, I think you're looking at if they're asking me that, they're looking at the wrong way. And I'm like, okay, John, just the 3rd time he's dragging me. Anyway, so that was awesome. He totally smoked me, and I'm still trying to learn.
So I'll answer the question with an answer, but the answer with an answer, which was Joe Kuvatakis who's starting to employ these tactics, these strategies in startups as well, and doing a very good job. But he has succumbed to the point that in a lot of cases early on, you almost have to lose the trade, which you kind of did, but you still weren't the guy. Sometimes there's a certain way that you start to make these trades, which is the waterfall effect. If you notice, I'm not familiar with the trades and the transactions in that league, but very, very solid guess that was not Chalk's only transaction to acquire a first, and not his only transaction where he was right. He was probably making multiple transactions, and it's the waterfall. It's not the transaction in a vacuum. It's not, so I should trade my 4th round pick for a 6th and a first. Yeah, you should, but it's also what is he really trying to do? And he's really just trying to continuously stack up the future first while still having a fairly competitive team. And sometimes, in the rarest of occasions, or not that rare, but sometimes not only a competitive team, but a dominant team. Sometimes you come out of there with multiple future firsts and your team is better today than almost everybody else in the league, that is the absolute nirvana of the trade back theory. And that's when you start to get really good value for your trades early on. But in a lot of leagues, people are reticent to give up the value because they kind of know what you're doing. But if you're in a more of a a novice league, that is where you can really just kind of chop everybody's heads off and gain value multiple times over. Sometimes you have to kind of lose first, which you did and then weren't really the guy. But I'm not picking on you because right now I know Jeff Fisher is completely jealous of this mustache that is gracing this show. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Nick, for being here, brother. I love you so much.
Yeah, love you too, bud. Status check. Chalk is up to 4 2026 firsts, 3 2026 seconds, 2 2027 firsts. Anyways, the team's pretty good. It's not the strongest I've ever seen him make, but he's right. I mean, he's going to be competitive. Right. And dude, I don't know how I don't know. I'm not there yet. But here's the thing. For the new Dynasty players, if you haven't heard our shows before, a lot of this is just me being very young and new to Dynasty. I think this is my 3rd year playing, and me trying to get wisdom from Jax here. One thing that I have picked up through trial and error is that startups are very valuable. And if I could go back and I could do this again, I would not take on. So I had like 1 Dynasty league my first year, and then last year I think I added 5 leagues.
Yeah,
that was too much.
Yeah,
it's too much because you're gonna succeed and you're gonna fail, and it really helps to sit with your successes and failures for like a full calendar year. You get to reflect on it. You get to see how when you go all in on a win now team, or you go, as I did frequently, create like a crappy team with a bunch of future picks, which you have advised me against, and I did it anyway. But if you're doing that in like 4 leagues, you're not like, most of these players are not good.
Right.
You're going to whiff a lot. It's so hard just because you have all these future picks in round one doesn't mean that you're going to build a super team. Like you can, do what I did and convince yourself that Quentin Johnston should go ahead of Bijan, right? And like you're going to make those errors. And, you may be saying, I'd never make that error. You're going to make that kind of error. Not in that same way, maybe, but you're going to screw up. If you're new, add one dynasty league, do that startup. Write notes. Like I've started doing this. Write notes. Put the date on there. Tell yourself what you're thinking. Next year, add one or two. Do one or two startups. You're going to succeed and you're going to fail, but you're not going to recognize it immediately. It's very helpful to add teams slowly. If I could do that again, that's what I would do. I think I dropped one. And that was just a brutal league. There was one guy who was super stacked and no one would trade because no one wanted to give up their stuff because it was like, he's going to beat us anyway. Anyway, so I dropped that league, added a new one.
I will say that my favorite experience playing in Dynasty was one active league. Whew, that's utopia. It's really great because if it's active, there's the chat, there's this, and it really feels more important because you only have one team. And so I remember at that, and a lot of guys can do this with 20 or 30 leagues. They can basically tell you their entire roster. It's unbelievable the way some of these guys' brains work. I mean this. Like, I think Beezy's one of these guys where I can ask him about a league and he can tell me his whole fucking roster. And he has 50 some odd leagues. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. But I can remember being able to do that. Of course, with my one dynasty league, I could tell you everybody on the roster. I knew everything it was in my head. It was stored up there. I had it. So if I made a trade, I knew exactly how it fit into that roster's texture. I knew, I already have the two wide receivers. I knew exactly how that works. So for me, it was a puzzle that was living in my head.
I'm not there yet. I can tell you most of my squads, but you're in tune when immediately you get a guy, in season, you get the starting running back that week, and which team you should send that offer. Like, hey, you can have him for a second because that guy needs to start. He needs a running back that week. Like when you're at that level, you're golden. But it's a lot like. I can't do that. I can tell you, listeners, I will never get to a point where I can do that with 20 leagues. I'm hoping to do that with 6 or 7.
Yeah. I mean, a handful, it's kind of easy, but once you get us to a certain number, I mean, I kind of know each team, the general sort of situation. I know where I'm at. I know I can tell you the story about where I'm at with the team. Juggernaut, very competitive. Fading, I need to make some move. Where's the team at in its sort of progression? That I can tell you on every single team. Rebuilder, wherever, shitty team like this one. I don't know, I fucked it up. But yeah, I mean, I think there's being honest is the other part. Like, so when you're in one league, I'm sure so many people are going to nod vigorously as I tell this. When you're in like one league and you're in a league with other people who are in one league and you go to make a trade, they love their players so much. Like, their players are the best players. Like Marvin Mims, dude, he's going to break out. Like, they love their players so much. Whereas if you're in 20 leagues, you have so many different combinations. You're like, I guess I don't know what I think about this guy. I mean, they're all, as you like to say, they're all bad. Tell everybody what you think about what you mean by this, because I think it's actually a conceptually brilliant, but some people hear this and mischaracterize it. Tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, so this was something that Dynasty did help me grasp, because you go into and you complete enough drafts where you got your like 3rd round steal and you're so pumped. You're like, I know for a fact that guy, he's popping off. Roschon Johnson. He's going to be the Bears starting running back. He's 6 foot, 219 pounds. He can catch passes. Like, that's
captain at Texas. Yeah. He's the guy, man. He's so good. They loved him at the Senior Bowl. Dude's tough as nails.
He broke his hand, and they had to ask him to leave.
They had to, because he's so good. That's right.
Yeah. So you go through this enough where, I mean, forget about your 3rd round darlings not working out. Wait until you come out of a draft with Anthony Richardson and Quentin Johnston in the first 5 picks, and you type into your league chat, I've had dreams that start like this, and it's it turns out it was a waking nightmare, and you were so wrong. But like within in the real life NFL, and it's been a while since anybody smarter than me looked at this, but the long-standing data is like round one, something like 50% of players are going to get a second contract with the team that drafted them. That's a bad. I mean, these are like people's jobs depend on those players getting contract extensions. So like they have a financial incentive to extend them. So if it's only a 50% hit rate in round one, that's telling you something. Round two, I think it drops. I think it's 50%, 30%, 17%. And I think it drops into the single digits with like the fifth going into 11% hit rate. But the point is, most of these players are not going to pan out. They're going to be what creates that 3.5 year average NFL career length. And you're going to get the Tom Brady's who are just drawing that out to the 3 year. Because most of this is like, they're not lasting. It's, no. So I work with Pro Football Focus and RotoWorld. And like, I'm already doing, transactions where I'm marking like players who are drafted in the 7th round who have been waived. And it's like these guys, we all want to believe, and underdog stories are so much fun, but most of the players that enter the NFL are not going to pan out. And when our player pool in Dynasty is limited, like think about how many offensive linemen, defensive linemen get drafted. Our player pool doesn't include that. So those hit rates are like, they might even be worse at the skill positions. So point is, approaching most of these players from a perspective of they're probably not going to be good. Now don't take that and go, everyone's literally bad. We were pretty sure, you were pretty sure, and you were right, that Bijan Robinson was going to be good. And he is. And it's amazing. But we start getting into shaky ground really quickly. And there are players here who we're going to talk about who are already drafted where we're like, ew, don't love that signing that happened today. And so I try to approach that everyone is bad. And that includes front offices. That includes like people get this stuff wrong constantly. There are so many medical and sports science departments. These are like $1 billion. I mean, I shouldn't be quoting money.
They're almost all run out of nepotism anyway. So
there you go.
It's like, who runs the Rams? Oh, the granddaughter of the founder? Oh, that makes sense. It's like, or whatever. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm sure she's the best for the job. Like, of course, like out of the billions of people to run this multi-billion-dollar company, the granddaughter of whoever fucking bought it in the 20s is definitely for sure. So, I mean, it's always that. And I would, by the way, my daughter would run it too. Like if I own the fucking thing, I get it.
Yeah,
nepotism is real, but at the end of the day, it's like we're banking on a lot of things happening, and there are teams that are not really trying to win either. They're just trying to make money. So they're and God bless them, they get to. But yes, there's a lot of that. I went back and I looked at like the vaunted 2020 running back class, or the I think it was 18 or whatever it was. The Darius Geis, Saquon Barkley, Sony Michel, Royce Freeman, Kerryon Johnson, what was the kid's name? Ronald Jones. Miss. These were like the best picks. These were premium first round draft picks. Yeah. You go to the JT year, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, who did I miss? Swift.
We still don't know if DeAndre Swift is good.
Right? It's like, and it's like, okay, so you just all these misses, okay, and that's normal and fine, and it's going to be that way, and every class has that, and you're never going to get there. You look right now at the I'm in the 20th round or whatever. After ADP of 200 running backs, there's some names in there that are just like Sean Tucker, Damian Pierce, Miles Sanders. Dare I tell you, these guys were dope. Singletary, Zamir White, Antonio Gibson, like AJ Dillon, like dude, guy after guy after guy. These aren't old players. These are, Cam Akers, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And this is what happens. There's a churn that happens at the running back position, whether we like it or not. Even the good players, like some of those guys had good, Dameon Pierce, remember? He was traded for a first-round pick in many a dynasty league after that 1 year. Elijah Mitchell, all these guys, right? It just happens so frequently that you're right. You almost want to lean away from betting on players and lean towards betting against players, which is not as fun, but you're starting to tap into the sort of the skeptic's mindset that I have all the time, which I'm like, I'm not sure about this,
Yes. So with that, you mentioned the cascade effect, or I'm blanking, the waterfall effect.
Yeah.
It pays to take a lot of shots. We when we're in our drafts and we're in our rookie drafts, we want to have a lot of opportunities because we're going to be wrong. One thing that I remember you trying to advise caution on was there was some startup that I was doing. I was like, look, I've got all this value. I've traded all of my 1 through 4 picks, and I've got 6 in the 10th round. And you said to me, at some point, you do have to actually pick. And I'm like, but I have so many chances. This is so good, right? And it's we want to take a lot of shots, and we want to take a lot of shots in premium rounds because it gets real shaky really, really quickly. So don't let yourself fall into that trap. And I did that in one of my rookie drafts this year where I moved the 102. And I mean, I got a lot of stuff. It became like RJ Harvey and Breece Hall and Jackson Dart. And all right, maybe I'm going to get some good stuff out of that. Maybe I get a number 2 running back whose knee never recovered, and a quarterback that never pans out. And I could have taken Omari Hampton, who we think is just going to be good. Maybe I should have just done that instead.
Maybe not. I think that's smart. When you started to talk about that, it reminded me of the understanding of tiers as well. And we don't know exactly what all this is, but especially in a startup, I mentioned this with Chalk. It's like, I didn't really see the tier until I was in some of these drafts. And that's why you do want to get into them. But oh, wow, look at pick 17, early second, 205 is where it comes back around and the Puka, Nico Collins sort of right there. It's there's a bit of a premium assets before this. And okay, but then that second one sort of spills into, I'd say, almost the entire third. It's the 1, 2, 3, and then it gets a little thinner in that 4th round, maybe halfway through the 4th round, something like that, where before that you can get the Lad McConkeys and all the premium quarterbacks. And once they're all gone and the top 5 or 6 running backs are gone and the top 10 quarterbacks and the top 15 wide receivers and the top 2 or 3 tight ends, you're like, I don't like any of these players. I'm looking at, secondary wide receiver 2s on teams. I'm looking at non-premium wide receiver 1s. I'm looking at tight ends, which one, Colson Loveland or George Kittle. George Kittle's old. Colson Loveland could be bad, right? We don't know yet, right? So it's all these things come into play, and so it's okay, well, if I'm going to start to trade, I want to understand that maybe there's certain sections that I need to prioritize. It's not linear. It's not the difference between the 309 and the 409 is the same as 209 to 309. It's probably not, and especially the 309 to the 509, way bigger than the 109 to the 309 even, maybe. You know what I mean? It's does that make sense?
Yes. And also the tiers, what I noticed, and so, hey, maybe the advice here is do add 2 startups a year, do one early and one a little bit later. Because what I noticed was, or actually whatever, screw it, just in rookie drafts, and confusing my words here. What I noticed was there were a couple of rookie drafts. I did 6 this year. There were a couple times where I was getting Elijah Arroyo or Harold Fannin in the 3rd round. I was getting them. I mean, I was seeing Shedeur Sanders at 311. Now, I'm not a big Shedeur Sanders guy.
That's a good pick.
So here's the thing. At early on, you could get him there. But that's when the tiers are super chaotic.
Yes.
You go back and you do a slow rookie draft. You start one week later, those tiers have shifted. And if you're not paying attention to that, like suddenly you're at like 210 and you're like, I'd really like to get a tight end here, and there's 3 of them on the board. I'm just going to trade back to 305, and they're all gone.
Boom, they're
and
gone.
You're
That's
going,
right. Yeah.
whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
So
that worked a week ago or 4 days ago.
Right.
That worked. Right.
It can take a second for the tiers to crystallize, and there's going to be ways to exploit that. There is the get your guy thing, but man, it's like Kyle Williams. That was another guy. He was a riser. He was a guy who I was getting in the late third, and then all of a sudden I'm like worried about not taking him at like 206.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that happened. I remember I was like, and look, we were all there. I mean, because I was even saying on the underground, I believe, I don't know if I said it here, it's who knows, but I was saying, I was like, go get Kyle Williams. And then like literally the next week the show came, I was like, that advice is fucking over with, because now he's at the 207. Yes. Like I was saying, when he was way back there, into the third, I was like, I think I'd be willing to take him. And it felt like a hot take, this Kyle Williams take. I think I'd be willing to take him right after the Bashal Tootin Cam Scatabo, right there at 207, and I was like, there's my hot take. And then all of a sudden that's where he goes now. It's or whatever, so yeah, you're right. This sort of stuff, some of it's not like I moved the ADP. It was just obvious that was the call. I made the call, which made me smart to see that whatever. But it's like, yeah, that's skate to where the puck is going,
Yes. And so one thing you mentioned, Bashal Tootin and Cam Scatabo, there was a certain point in rookie drafts where I'm drafting Scatabo and I'm like, well, it's too early for Bashal Tootin. He's usually going 5 picks later. And then I just in the startup with Chalk, I just took Bashal Tootin and I didn't even think to look for Cam Scatabo. And he came off the board like a round later and I just didn't even care. Yeah. And now I'm back to being nervous about Bashal Tootin because he keeps dropping the ball, whatever. But it's fine. The value is
probably bad, right?
He's probably bad.
He's probably
and Travis Etienne is like the coach's dream, and he's probably bad. But these tiers, man, the value in this game changes so quickly, and I wish I had written that down, because when you're trying to do this, like I'm like a 3-year contender, like dude, no. Maybe in 1 year your team is looking good again, but the landscape is going to shift so completely. That's okay. So on this note, we've got some QBs that I want to talk about. I mentioned Shedeur Sanders, which was one of the weirder things, covering Shedeur Sanders for RotoWorld, where I'm getting all of these news stories. I kept thinking of him as he's like, if he works out, he's going to be Brock Purdy. He's like soft-armed. He's accurate. He can stand in the pocket. Purdy's probably a better rusher. They're both slow, but Purdy's actually like a weirdly good slow rusher, and he can punch some touchdowns in. Didn't understand why he was being considered as like the number 1 pick or whatever. I figure you probably like, you kind of got to take him at like 30th if you think he's going to pan out.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I thought he would pan out. And later the other day I thought, oh my God, he's Chad Pennington. And I think that's the comp for Shedeur. Maybe not. But do you have shares? Do you have cares of Shedeur? You do?
I do. I think the lesson I've learned over the years is that like even Daniel Jones and Josh Allen were 2 quarterbacks that I didn't like as prospects, and I faded them in a way that was like kind of disrespectful to them. I was like, this is bullshit. They're never going to be good. And that's dumb. That's actually bad process. I think the good process is to take the value as it comes to you at the quarterback position, because you never know. And, you could be wrong, be ready to be wrong, and when a quarterback starts, they don't even have to be that good. As soon as a quarterback starts, there's a certain amount of value to them in a super flex league. Obviously, I wouldn't draft any of these, probably almost 0 of these quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league. I mean, unless I really, really needed a quarterback. And if I really, really needed a quarterback, I'd probably trade something else to get an actual quarterback, because one of these quarterbacks won't fit the bill. But maybe I draft Milroe deep enough where it's like I'm taking a dice roll on him being Justin Fields, whatever. I mean, that's kind of who cares at that point. But anyway, so yeah, Shedeur, I think he's going to work his way onto the field at some point. He's got the dead body of Joe Flacco and like Deshaun Watson's not playing. I mean, he's not healthy and probably will never play for that franchise ever again, of course. And like Dylan Gabriel, who else is there? There's some other dead bodies there, like not much.
Is Quinn Ewers there?
No, he's in Miami.
No, Kenny Pickett.
That's it. Yeah. I conveniently forgot about Kenny Pickett. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, of course, you definitely want to take shots with these quarterbacks for sure. Even Quinn Ewers, why not? I mean, at the right value.
No, it's at the right value, and like you said, I mean, the plan there is simply if you drafted Shedeur Sanders, I think that you sell him as soon as you possibly can, like when there's the drumbeat, because like that guy, I don't know if it'll be for Cleveland, but he's gonna start NFL games.
Yep.
And they took Dylan Gabriel beforehand, and Gabriel was one of these guys. I'm not going to attribute it. I'm blanking on which draft analysts were like, "Hey, he's kind of good."
A lot of them were actually. I mean, John Lobb came on my program and said, "Hey, look, if we don't like Dylan Gabriel, then we have to throw our models out." And it's kind of true. Like he does do everything really well. He's just so small. But I think what happened to Shedeur, and I think you've probably said this, or repeated it, but like if you're not going to take him as a starter, meaning in that first round from the NFL's position, Cleveland isn't going to take him with pick 2. If you're not going to take him in there, then once you start getting into backup quarterback picking range, rounds 3-4, late second 3-4, then he's an awful backup quarterback because the circus comes with. I don't want a circus backup quarterback. I don't want that. So I think a lot of teams were like, yeah, he belongs here talent wise somewhere in the second round, but we don't want the circus for our backup. That's just too much. We don't want that. So he fell. And finally Cleveland, who agreed with that and took Dylan Gabriel as their backup because he's more he's easy going. They said, fuck it. We're the Cleveland Browns. We might as well take him here. And then they finally did. And I was surprised he didn't go sooner. But that just shows you how much, I don't know, fragility a lot of these front offices have. A lot of them aren't cohesive where they can, accept that type of a talent onto their team and still not have rifts because of the pressures, outside pressures, both from the media, from Deion Sanders, from all that sort of stuff. They just couldn't withstand it, and they knew it.
It's also telling that they were the team that took him because they're like, we made it through the Deshaun Watson years, right. Like we can handle anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any shares of Tyler Shuck?
Oops, no.
Okay, because
that's the one probably. So he's my guess. I guess my Daniel Jones. I guess the price just got too expensive for me.
I know, because he's treated as the starter already to some tiny degree. Sorry, I cut you off, but
you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. And it's probably, honestly, it's probably an oversight on my part, but like, it's just, I guess it's more the profile I'm betting against, which is older quarterback who did nothing for so long. I mean, slight frame too, honestly. I mean, the frame's not great. There's just so many red flags there that it's hard for me to pull the trigger on him above other guys. I think that's really it. So what do we not hate ADPs? We don't hate players, we hate ADPs, but in this case, I hate a little bit of both.
His ADP was really tough because he was pretty quickly in the back of the second round, and like you could still, you could go with Harold Fannin instead there, and it's like I'm gonna see this one at least. Shuck, I don't know. I think I drafted him twice. One of them was in this listener league, and in this listener league, like everyone in the league has probably fielded trades where I'm trying to get one of their quarterbacks, because I needed a third quarterback. With Jackson Dart, you were talking about him. Before I go there, you mentioned John Lobb. He has like a top 3 voice of all time. His cadence he's so endearing. I've never spoken to this guy, but I want you to do more shows with him because I'm smiling the whole time that I'm listening.
Every time he comes on, the best was his first time coming on the episode. He was just screaming, and we had it was the Sam Howell, And he goes, Sam Howell isn't athletic? Are you kidding me? It was just so good. I loved every minute of it. He had me fucking howling. Yeah, he's too good. But go ahead on your Jackson Dart because you started to get me excited.
Yeah. Well, so like Dart, I can see this seems like Jackson Dart seems like he has one of the widest ranges of outcomes. And I did not expect to draft him really that much because it's such a wide range. I think I drafted him in like 4 or 5 of my 6 leagues because he kept being there in the second round.
Yeah, you have to take him in the second round.
I was certain that he would be off the board. I kept seeing people rank him like Bo Nix. So last year, Bo Nix, I was super in on Bo Nix in redraft because I was slow to the party. I didn't draft him anywhere in Dynasty. This guy, he's a bum. He only does the 6-yard throw thing. Right. And then he goes out there and he's like my favorite quarterback to watch, scrambling around the field throwing these. Yeah, he's super fun. I love Bo Nix. He's fantastic. So I wasn't going to make the same mistake with a rushing profile. Different arm. Jackson Dart can kind of sling it. But in the second round, I was like, I got to go draft this guy. The range of outcomes with Jackson Dart, though. But I just kind of want to nail you down, and that's fine. You don't have to answer it in this manner. Do you think he's good?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the research, so to speak, the conversations I had on this program as a big part of that was guys were like, it's the system. Okay, so what we're saying is he played in a system, that didn't ask him to do certain things that he'll need to do at the NFL level. And that's basically the criticism. Nobody said he couldn't do those things when asked. They said he didn't do those things because he wasn't asked, which I think is a different question than, look, he didn't display confidence doing these things when he was asked to do them. So for me, he was prolific at what he was asked to do. He has the rushing upside, and he's got some moxie. That's for fucking sure. I mean, dude definitely has a little bit of that. Like, I'm good. I know it. Look at me. It's coming. So I think he's perfect for New York. I think he's going to get a chance. And even if you don't believe in these guys or whatever, like, there's always an off ramp. Almost always. I mean, Bryce Young offered you an off ramp. I mean, there's only a couple that really haven't. It's like Jamarcus Russell, Josh Rosen, like some of the real legendary flameouts have not provided you a very good off-ramp. But even Zach Wilson, there was an off-ramp for a lot of this time. Kenny Pickett, I got a first round for Kenny Pickett in a very competitive league in the first offseason. There's usually an opportunity for you to get off of it one way or the other. So I think it's really a no-risk, early second-round pick for Jackson Dart.
Okay, Zach Wilson. I remember you had so much fun with Zach Wilson, and so he started dating his friend's moms. Yeah, his mom's friends. His friend's mom. Yikes, dude.
Dating?
His mom.
I think he was banging them.
Well, your word choice was piping, but I digress. But I remember
correct,
listening.
Though. I mean,
I remember listening to even these like deep analytics podcasts. I won't name names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but like the most analytically minded guys, young men that you can picture. And they were like, oh my God, he's just, now I'm showing my age because I'm totally blanking on the 6'5" rapper. He's, anyway, it doesn't matter. But he was like, he's just like this guy who's dating like all these older ladies, and the team's going to rally around him. And, then they go back to talking about like EPA per play, but even these guys were still smitten with it. They were like, he's a leader because he's dating 45-year-olds, and he just, he didn't get mono, right? Sam Darnold got
45-year-olds. He was not dating any of them. He was piping them. That's what he was doing. I mean, we just got to call a spade a spade. When you see something, you just call it like it is. And he was doing the Lord's work for these nice young ladies. Yeah, God bless them.
The whole thing was they were all anyway. All right, so to your point, these guys tend to have off ramps. It's astonishing. Even Zach. Yeah. I mean, Zach Wilson is like the funniest one, but he did. So I don't know what to, like Jackson Dart. I think he might be good. I think he might be bad. I think that he might be tied to Brian Daboll, and that could be a problem. I don't friggin' know, but.
Yeah.
Dual threat quarterback, strong arm. To your point, he showed positive things in his system in college. It's like, yeah, dude, at like 203, it's like, take my money. I'm going to try this. Yeah.
You have to.
And the upside is it's a lot better than like the guy, than Shedeur Sanders, who we were just talking about.
Correct.
On other QBs, different type of thing. He had a major off ramp during his rookie season. CJ Stroud, he has to be a buy. No?
Yeah, for sure. I think Travis Seal, my co-host, one of my co-hosts of the Underground, loves CJ Stroud, thinks he's an absolute buy low. I think there's a little bit of a middle I'm taking here. I don't think he's not a buy low necessarily, but I don't think he has quite the upside as a lot of other quarterbacks, given the rushing floor. He doesn't have it. He's not a rusher. He doesn't profile to be a rusher. He doesn't project to be a rusher in the future. So really, it's all about, passing yards and passing touchdowns, which of course I think he will do with the best of them in the NFL. But I think that ceilings him somewhere as a back end quarterback one. I don't think really think he's Joe Burrow at this point. Even Joe Burrow's got some legs, so I think you really have to have a big ceiling in your mind for him to be a huge buy, because he's still in that sort of, Caleb Williams area, Justin Herbert area. I think that's fair.
You're right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like the conversation we always have is your boy Bo Nix versus Stroud, and I took Bo Nix straight up over Stroud in a startup and ruffled some feathers on some people who were like, whoa, wow, all right. But I thought it was kind of easy. Like, look, if Bo Nix, unless he's terrible and like somehow that was masked in his first year, his rushing upside is huge. And I think if they put some weapons around him, I think it's wheels up for Bo Nix too,
You're right. And this is the appropriate way to look at this. I really did a comprehensive study on all of the top 12 positional finishers from weeks 1 through 17 last year. And what like jumped off the page with the quarterbacks was they have to run the ball. There were a couple of guys that like Jared Goff is just the most freakishly efficient. I mean, the things he's doing, leading the league in play action, but I think they were freaking dead last. I'm looking at my document right now, and it's like it takes forever to load because I put so much friggin' data in here. But dead last in neutral game pass play rate, but number 1 in play action pass play rate. And he was just freakishly efficient. It is really, really hard to be a QB1 based purely on passing. And you might be listener, you might be going, well, but here's the thing, Baker Mayfield. Looking at this right now, Baker, where are you at? Number 5 among where's the rushing data? Here's the sample. Among 34 NFL quarterbacks with at least 20 rushing attempts in weeks 1 through 17, Baker Mayfield ranked 5th in yards per carry at 6.1.
There you go.
So
pretty efficient at it, right?
There you go. There has to be some sort of rushing involvement. And either he does volume.
Skedaddle. I always say he doesn't rush; he skedaddles. He's like, "Oh, let me get out of here."
Yeah.
But those are fleeting anyway, and really, those are the guys that you want to elevate into that quarterback too. It's like quarterbacks 12 through 24. That's where those guys reside, unless they're super elite like Mahomes and Burrow. And again, as you point out, Burrow and Mahomes have rushing. So didn't Herbert to some degree, but CJ Stroud does find himself a little bit closer to a Jared Goff type than to even a Herbert type, in terms of how much he rushes and what kind of upside he's got there. So, yeah, I think, look, I love Stroud. He's great. And to me, like, he's found money as soon as, like, if you're drafting him as your quarterback 2 in a league, that's amazing. If you have him as, one of the other premier quarterbacks, it's awesome.
Okay. So one of the other things that you said to me, man, so early, I'd be sending you trades. Jack, I didn't want to tell you which side was which. Which side do you prefer? And you go, the side with profit. And it was just like, figure it out, dude. Like, win this. Be fair, be respectful, but give him the squeeze. If you're selling CJ Stroud and you're getting Bo Nix, is that enough profit?
Selling CJ Stroud, getting Bo Nix, I suppose. I usually, whenever I'm doing that trade though, and you'll love this, that means the other guy prefers CJ Stroud, right?
Okay.
Why else would he be doing that? So if I'm doing that, I'm going to get some profit and be like, well, obviously you're smart. You know that this is blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm just going to ask for it because I don't really care. Give me either guy. But it obviously matters to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation unless it's so important to me, in which case I'm not going to make an even trade, in the same tier for nothing. So I'm getting the profit on that deal no matter which side I've got, no matter which way it's going, because they're in the same tier, but it matters more to you than it does to me. You're going to pay. And in whatever a second, third swap, a 2026 second I give you my 26 third. Could be just a couple of spots. Your team's so good. Don't worry about it.
So that's the way to handle that. So everybody just go rewind. Like if you're new to this, rewind, listen to the way he phrased that, because I've been the guy who is sending tweets. Look how good of a trade this is for you, man. I'm actually trying to do you a favor. I'm helping you out. I've been the guy who's doing that, and I've been on the receiving end of it. And you learn very quickly, no, you're not just the asshole,
right?
So be smart, be respectful, feel things out. Like Jax just said, if you're even having the conversation, that's telling you something. You don't need to go lay it on thick.
Right. No, we know what we're talking about here. You want him.
Yes.
It's cool.
Yeah. Okay. A guy who I wanted, but no longer want anything to do with, man.
Anthony Richardson.
I
knew we're in the quarterbacks. I knew it was going to be Anthony Richardson. How did I know?
Going back to that friggin' draft, I remember my rankings for that were like, I think it was CJ Stroud, and then I like begrudgingly or uncomfortably. Sometimes I get stupid cold feet, and I'm okay. That's just a gripe I have with myself. I didn't want to put Bryce Young 2, but I felt like I was being a moron if I didn't or whatever. So I think I put him at 2, but then it was like, you should be debating Anthony Richardson or Quentin Johnston at 3. And even there's an argument that Anthony Richardson should be number 1. And then he did the combine thing. And I remember you going from, no, this guy is not worth the draft pick, to, okay, he's the most athletic QB of all time. There is a place where we should consider him. Unfortunately, we are at a place now where I don't know what one considers with, like, okay.
Here's the answer. So Anthony Richardson right now is unsellable. You can't sell him right now. You can't do it. I co-manage a league with Gemmo, and it's his league, but he basically invites me so that he can, stand a chance at beating these guys. And so anyway, he goes, "Hey man, we have Anthony Richardson." And of course, it's like whatever. So he sends me a text or something. He says, "Hey man, work your magic. You got to get rid of Anthony Richardson." I'm like, that's not going to happen right now. It's just, he's thinking that's the guy I want to sell. Here's the problem: is that everybody sort of feels this way. I don't want him. So now the price is so cheap. I put out a tweet recently that he's a buy. I was like, someone, Chalk, I think in the league you're in, I think he got him, and I was like,
he was trying to trade him to me.
Of course, it's smart.
Yes,
but it's at the point where it's like, dude, this is where it all congeals. You just said a lot of these guys are almost all bad, and we're drafting, a guy like Anthony Richardson in the 10th, 11th, 12th round of a startup, where guess what? Most of these guys are going to be bad. It's like, it's not like you're not giving up an amazing opportunity cost right now to get Anthony Richardson. And same thing, if you're making a trade for him, you're bailing out that other manager. So you shouldn't have to pay much at all. If anything, like, it should definitely be something that, unless you feel really good about the trade value that you got, if you're acquiring Anthony Richardson, don't do it. But if you're selling, don't sell at all, unless someone's stupid. If someone wants to be stupid, sure, you can sell him for a first or something, but that's never happening. So ultimately, the play here is to hold on to him, because he's probably going to play. And I mean, I know he's hurt now, and Daniel Jones is there, and right now we're like, he may not even start at all this year, and it's possible. He also, things could change in a month or two where he's starting week 1. Yeah. And if he's starting week 1, there is one thing I do know about, and that is when he plays, he scores fantasy points, because he'll probably run one in, and He's going to do Anthony Richardson stuff. He might break a big run. He might throw a bomb off his back foot to some guy in the deep corner of the end zone. Like, we've seen what he can do. And then you'll have your opportunity to sell for much, much more because he'll just have been the quarterback 8 in week 1, and you can sell then. Just sell when he plays a game. Don't do it now. Wait.
Is that where you're at, though? Like, it's time, if the opportunity is there, take the off-ramp?
Yeah. I mean, the likelihood that he's actually good is diminishing moment by moment. And it doesn't appear that the Colts have his long-term. See, this is the other thing too. Like with Bryce Young, they're like, no, we're doing this. We're doing Bryce Young. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna do it. It's like, oh wow, they're really committed. They're not doing that with Anthony Richardson. Like, I don't know, we'll see here. You know what I mean? It's like I've said it so many times. I think Matthew Berry was the first to have this take, and I thought it was great. He goes, "Why would you draft a developmental quarterback and then not develop him? Doesn't make any sense." It's like, why would you just think, oh, we'll just throw him in there, it'll be fine? No, that was never the take. No scout ever said that to anybody. No scout ever said to the Indianapolis front office, just chuck him in there, he should be good. Nobody advised that. So that's kind of what they did, and then they pulled the hook on him, and they're like, wait, why isn't it? It's like, no, you needed 2 years with this guy. You needed maybe a sit year, then maybe, I mean, you did it all wrong.
It's very weird. It's kind of the thing where you're like, did the owner, and rest in peace, Jim Irsay, did he say, hey, go get that guy? Like, because it's like the Bryce comparison. What did Carolina's front office do? They went out and they got him an X receiver. That was the big acquisition, was we're spending a first round pick to get you an alpha. Right. Indianapolis, I mean, I guess they did go get Tyler Warren, but simultaneously they made 2 moves instead of 1, and the other move was we're getting a guy who started in the NFL for like 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't think they've got everything together for him, and that makes it very scary. If they were fully in and they're like, no, we knew it was going to be some growing pains, we're all in. Even if what they were saying about Daniel Jones, like, he's here to protect, us. He's been hurt a couple times, but Anthony Richardson's our starter. He's the future, blah, blah. There's not a lot of that sentiment. It's more like, oh, well, I don't know, man. Let's see what, there's more of that. So I think it's highly unlikely that he comes out of this as a 10-year starter in Indianapolis. You know what I mean? That's very, very unlikely. But yet, once he's scoring fantasy points, people like fantasy points when they're in fantasy leagues, ironically. And when he's doing that, and it's in the year that he is currently scoring them, then you can sell that production. Right now, you can't sell him on his value. Value is creaky. It's very tenuous. You feel like you're going to fall through the floor immediately. But once there's production, the production is rock solid, and that's what you're going to be selling.
Yeah. Okay. So a guy who I think can produce, like, I've been pretty pumped about Justin Fields since he signed here with the Jets. And, shout out, like, Evan Silva. Heard him on the ETR pod when they first started talking about, like, their takes for this season with Justin Fields. I think he said he had him as, like, the QB7 or something in the top 150. And, like, my heart was like, oh, I need a smoke. I gotta calm down here, because that was music to my ears. Whenever the GOAT has a thing where you're like, oh, I kind of had that thought too. And then you're like, all right, cool. So Fields, this deal, I don't know, listeners, if you guys have looked at pulling up over the cap here, at Justin Fields' contract. This is a very interesting contract. So they signed him. Jets signed him. It's a 2-year deal. It's got, what is that, 3-4 void years? I don't know what these guys are doing with the void year thing nowadays. But anyway, if we're looking at pre-June 1 cut numbers, next season, 2021, or 2021, what am I saying? 2026. Next season, $22 million in dead money, $1 million in savings. If we go to post June 1, it's $13 million in dead money, $10 million in savings.
Yeah. That
is probably on the line where the Jets front office is like, we'll stomach that. It kind of sucks, but we could stomach if we do the post June 1 thing.
Yeah.
But that pre June 1 number is like, it's at least some vote of confidence. Now, I don't know how. I saw your twitch there.
I think first of all, Evan's correct, and I seldom, if ever, go against Evan Silva for anything whatsoever, except when I was right about Alexander Madison being a bum and not being worth anything, and he was riding that one. I was like, man, I wish I could just tell him one thing you're going to be wrong about is Alexander Madison. But
to be clear, the OTC thing, the over the cap thing, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's my. That's me. That's not Evan. That's not.
No, I'm just checking. But it's true. Like if you look at per game numbers with Justin Fields, he's a fantasy scorer. Now the question was with Justin Fields was whether or not he was going to retain his position as starting quarterback. And they didn't draft anybody or bring anybody in. So the answer is likely yes at this point, that he is going to retain starting position, even if they don't perform that well. Like, what are they going to just flip to Tyrod Taylor or something? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So they're going to kind of stick with this and try and make it work for a bit longer than many franchises might, because as Chris Rock famously says, a man is only as faithful as his options.
That's where you said that to me before, and I didn't know if that was that. That's great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose they could bring in somebody else in the draft, and it could look a lot different. But year. I mean, it sure looks like this year he's locked in.
Yes.
One thing I don't. Maybe you got maybe you have thoughts on this. Working at RotoWorld and listening to Pat Pat, he's brought this up on a couple of different podcasts. What happened in Pittsburgh? Because Russell Wilson was a guy, but he had the calf thing. And then Justin Fields, yes, the offense was a little bit limited, but it's an Arthur Smith offense. It's limited by nature. What are we talking about? Justin Fields goes out there and leads him to a 4-2 start, and he gets benched.
Yeah.
For Dusty Russ. What was that?
I think I know what that was, because there was a couple of games I watched kind of carefully, and there were just so many opportunities where I went back. You would watch, and they would have one-on-one, with Pickens on the outside. And it's like, look, if we get the single coverage, that's where the ball's got to go. And it's an easy read, easy moment. And how good a ball can you put on this guy? That's up to you. But whether or not it goes there, all top 25 starting NFL quarterbacks in the league have to just make that throw one way or the other. He's open. He can be covered. He's open. He's single covered. There's no safety help. You have to throw that football someplace and let George Pickens go make a play. And what he would do is eat it and scramble for nothing, take a sack. Like, there was just too many of those moments where it's not 1, 2, 3 step, there it is, let it go. It was a lot of so I imagine as a coaching staff, you're sitting there going, we're leaving plays out on the field, and we need you to deliver the football in these moments. And he would cover it up both in fantasy and in real football with his legs, with that defense, especially early. Early they were loaded. I think they got some injuries as well in Pittsburgh that hurt them a lot on the defensive side of the football. But I think when you're the coach, it's hard to just be like, that's fine, we'll just deal with that. It's like, no, at least. And Russ, to his defense, would make those moon balls. Those were fairly, you probably have the numbers in front of you. They were actually a pretty good efficiency on those balls. So I think that's what it was. I just think that there's certain things with Justin Fields that we continue to see that are disheartening from any sort of offensive coordinator's perspective in the NFL.
You're probably right. I think I maybe so the season ends and the reports are, that they're maybe interested in Rodgers, but that Justin Fields is the guy that they want. They wanted to re-sign him. I'm putting stock in that as that they're recognizing their mistake. But to your point, to your quote, if the option is Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers, who is it you would prefer to be faithful to? Well, in that scenario, it's Justin Fields.
Yes.
And they didn't get him. He skipped town. And that offense, and I want to believe, I guess. I got my I want to believe poster right behind me.
I see that. I really like that. And I want to too. I love Justin Fields. He's so exciting. And he doesn't have to be the best he has to be more like a Jalen Hurts on those throws. Jalen Jalen Hurts will let those go, and
he's
not the most accurate down the field. He doesn't, but he's not afraid, and sometimes he'll just, you have to be able to make those throws in the NFL, and you have to be able to keep the defense honest, because that's what they're doing a lot of times anyway. They're like, he's not going to make that throw, so we can afford to play single high and all the rest. They're literally changing the defense because we know you can't do that. And schematically, you want a player that can really put pressure on both sides. And, obviously it's a little easier in Philly with a great offensive line and two dynamic outside players, but I don't care Pickens is as good as it gets out there. You got to be able to let that go. And now with DK, obviously it's a different team, but we'll see what happens with Garrett Wilson and who else is in New York. I mean, is Josh Reynolds a starter there? Lazard, who's the starting wide receiver trio? I look at the depth chart and I'm like, I don't even know if this is to be believed. This is crazy stuff. That's the other problem there. So, I'm super, super nervous about what's going to happen in New York. I would imagine it's going to be Justin Fields, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson. And Justin Fields is going to take off. It's a single read. It's going to be like, is Garrett Wilson open? If not, I'm running it, or I'm dumping it down, I guess.
So some folks I'm hearing express concern over Garrett Wilson's target volume, just because they're probably not going to pass a lot. Although they did bring in. So here's the thing. Yeah, but they brought in the Lions passing game coordinator for their OC. So he's at least going to be considering the pass. But like we talked about earlier, lowest neutral game passing rate in the league. So who knows? I do think Mason Taylor, which I don't really have that much exposure to, and not out of any, I like him. I'm not really sure how that happened. But Mason Taylor, I think, could have an impact in year one. Yes, I'm looking at the starting lineup, by the way.
It's
Josh
crazy.
Reynolds, Allen Lazard. It's really crazy. It's
and they have no competition for those two guys. It's like you look behind them and you're like, yeah, those are the starters for sure. It's definitely those two guys. Malachi Corley, the rookie, Arian Smith, who's a rookie, Tyler Johnson, the journeyman. It doesn't get much.
Johnson.
Yeah, that's that's what they've got going on. So yeah, I don't know. If you told me who's going to be third on this team in targets, so what a fucking bet that is. In Vegas, is there odds for this? I mean, that is an amazing. Who's the favorite to be third on this team in target? Mason Taylor, I would assume.
I suppose, but then I would ask you who is second, because Breece Hall has to be in here. Yeah. Okay. But so here's the thing. But then you get into the dialogue, and it's but he doesn't throw to running backs. It's he doesn't throw to Allen Lazard, so he's going to throw to Breece Hall. But now we're getting this talk about how it's a committee. I think I traded the 108 for Breece Hall straight up, and in the moment I was like, "Ooh, very cool." And then I'm like, I don't know. Am I happy with that? I think. What a talent, what an amazing 3-down profile, what a season after his ACL tear. But now his knees, it's kind of getting a little bit sore. I mean, but then I go back to, but the scheme. I'm pumped about the scheme. I think it's going to be a fun scheme. What are you doing with Breece Hall?
I think he's a buy. He's certainly a great value. We picked him up in an anchor running back situation in a startup that we did just recently. I can pull up where I got him. Hold on, but yeah. So I think he's definitely a buy. Let's look at it real quick while I got you. All right.
So they have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis back there as well. And Allen, I think, was better than what some of the doubters, I recall you were not in on Braylon Allen. He was perhaps better than that low expectation. Isaiah Davis had a lot of hype kind of as a draft darling.
He looked good too when he played.
Yeah. So they probably do have three guys who can contribute to meaningfully or positively to the backfield productivity, but neither one of them is Breece Hall, and these guys are trying to keep their jobs, so I feel like they're going to want to give Breece Hall a lot. But you were just talking about him as your anchor RB.
Ironically, yes. We did. We took him at the 411. This was in a league that had, even at this time, it had someone must be sick and want to do extra drafts because it has the draft picks in there instead of the players. We took him right in between the 107 and the 108. So we're with you. So that's great value at the 411 in a startup. Yeah, I mean, really just ahead of Chase Brown, Ken Walker, Jonathan Taylor, which, yeah, that's great. I think it's Breece Hall, as you point out. You get the Alfred Morris corollary here now with the rushing quarterback is going to increase the efficiency of the running back. Presumably, they did invest in the offensive line. They don't have a lot of passing game options. You would think it will center around Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall.
Okay, so that makes me feel good, but we do try to kind of sell running backs at some point before they fall off, because when they fall off, it's pretty harsh. From a game theory perspective, do you approach the receiver position the same way, or are you kind of in on these older receivers? Like, do you just kind of keep them until they stop producing and you put them out to pasture?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was thinking about this one a little bit, and it's like, yes and no. I think there are certain receivers that you do want to get off of. I think you always want to be interested in making a trade to get a little younger, even at the wide receiver position. So, if you can trade a player in a similar tier, but get a little younger in doing so, I think there's always that I try to do, just try and keep sort of the ball rolling, but not necessarily as vehemently as we're trying to get off the running backs. There's also something to be said about the running backs that made me think, it's like, is this a second contract guy? Because we saw it, but it's so weird because we see it with certain guys like Mixon right now, still alive, but yet other guys like Dalvin Cook and, other guys in his draft class, Fournette, not alive, right? They're dead. They're gone. It's over. So it's really hard to know which guy will and won't sort of extend. But if you're talking about even the 25, 26-year-old sort of cliff that exists for running backs, it's like, we've got guys in their contract here right now. Breece Hall, Ken Walker, I think those two guys should get a contract somewhere and should be able to play somewhere next year. You would think? What do you think?
Yes.
Right? So
I would expect Breece Hall to. I mean, I think he's otherworldly talented. Ken Walker, this dude. So the thing with Breece, he's had the knee injury and then knee soreness, and he's kind of gets the soft moniker. Ken Walker, meanwhile, just today came out that he's been limited because of another ankle injury, and like Jetpack Galileo always says, he's tearing his nuts. It's always he keeps racking up this, and it's not just the one old thing. It's the things keep piling up. Plus, Charbonnet comes out when Breece Hall. Braylon Allen had some cool moments, but those guys didn't do what Zach Charbonnet did in relief of Ken Walker. When Charbonnet went in there, he kicked ass. It was a lot of fun. And so and maybe I just shouldn't be comparing their talent like Charbonnet and Walker like that. But I guess I kind of think that Hall, I would expect him to get a fruitful 3-year contract at the end of this.
Agreed.
Ken Walker maybe joins a committee as the Lightning counterpart to a
and I'll give you another one. What about Kyren Williams? Right? Here's another guy in a contract year who their team, we've been talking about, just invested 2 years in a row in Blake Corum and now my boy, Jarquez. But, none of those two guys, Corum and Jarquez, have a clear path to anything. I get that. But they both have a huge ceiling should the path emerge. Let's just put it that way. That's the way I look at those two players. But because they drafted those two guys, it does give them the flexibility to not pay Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams, a later round draft pick, doesn't have quite the the level of what's the word I'm looking for that Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker do. So I think in the end of the day, Kyren could see a softer market. What do you think there?
Yes, and apologies for the audio there, but so Kyren, the thing is, the bummer with him is he's playing currently with a coach that kind of unceremoniously moved on from Todd Gurley.
Right.
And like he's got his guy until his guy kind of breaks down, and then it's what's the new toy? And
yes.
I mean, I guess Gurley, he did go on and he had like a surprisingly fantasy-wise productive season with the Falcons. I think he scored like 10 touchdowns that year, and that was neat. But like we knew he's getting his knee, like his arthritic knee, shot up with stuff beforehand, and he's just out there grinding for like however many million they gave him for that 1 year. I don't know how many other and Gurley was like, he was a darling, man. I mean, the whole NFL loved. I remember him just in his like first game was that his first game back? He ran for like 180 yards against the Seahawks, and like I remember watching that with family, and they were like, "This is the guy who had the knee thing," and he's just like bouncing into the end zone, and it's beautiful. Yeah. Kyren Williams. Hey, shout out to me. I was on Kyren in 2022, and Harditz dunked on me for it. So, because he kind of screwed up in his first game when he came back from the injury. Shout out Ian Harditz. But I think, which by the way, Harditz needs to come on the show because you guys would have a lot of fun together. Yes, I will text
he's
him.
The best. I love him.
He is. Ian, I learned so much podcasting in one season with Ian. He is. Ian's a big personality, and he is caring. Yeah, and I don't know. I appreciate Ian Harditz a lot. He's a caring person, and he's a star in the industry, but he is also, you talk to him one-on-one, and he is a very, very nice, supportive person. Love Ian Harditz. Okay.
There we go.
Anyway, back to Kyren Williams.
Back to non-supportive Kyren Williams. Right. Not as nice.
Yeah, dude.
Nowhere near as nice. But I agree. I think Kyren may or may not get the bag from LA, which is actually where you really want him to get the money anyway, because if he goes somewhere else, I think his sort of skill set is limited. And I guess there's my point. And, we can look at three players there with Breece Hall, Ken Walker, and Kyren Williams and sort of see it's not necessarily the same process each time. You got to look at the draft capital. Obviously, Breece wins there. It's sort of the draft capital, the all that stuff kind of comes together. Will they be able to flourish in a different? And I think you nailed it with Ken Walker too. He's sort of a little bit of the lightning to a two back room. I think is his best sort of usage. But yeah, I think you sort of nailed it. So that's how I look at it with running backs, with wide receivers, a little bit of prototype too, right? Like the bigger guys, the DK Metcalfs. I'm a little bit hesitant with that prototype anyway. But if I do strike gold with that prototype, maybe I'm looking to get off him a little bit sooner than a player like JSN, who's like, dude, he's a target guy. Like he's just going to receive targets for a long time, and he's still young, but, I know that's, kind of a tougher one, but you even wrote in the show sheet, I don't mean to sort of step on a little bit, but when you mentioned JSN, you sort of said, would you be selling because he sort of reached maybe a potential peak? And I think that is actually the other thing that you got to do is if you look back at every player that had ever done anything and sold them at their hotness, that would have been a smart move because, of course, they subsequently fell from there, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, so there is a sort of sell at the peak, but the hard part about that is that that's when they're most valuable to your team. You're like, dude, we're going to win because I've got so-and-so. So it's hard to sell when they're at that position. But process-wise, you almost have to force yourself to consider it.
Okay. Because, I think JSN, I really wish it was not Sam Darnold. There's a lot of optimism here in Seattle. I mean, it's literally like I can tell the defensive coordinator, if you just pressure him, this is going bad. It's like it's and if he's safe, this guy can play, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with JSN. But like if you can just rattle him a little bit, it's the ghosts start coming out of the woodwork and everything.
Yep.
I think that JSN, I think I don't know, maybe he's not a dark horse to contest. I think he can lead the league in targets. Yeah. I'm not saying you should go bet on that, but like this year, maybe next year, man, it'd be so cool if Jalen Miller works out. But I think he's up there. He's got the slot role. Now here's the thing. Mike Dugar great beat reporter. He's saying that like they're going to kind of protect Kupp in the slot, and then when they have to go have somebody win on the perimeter, that's going to be JSN. We can't keep JSN in the slot every single play. I would hope that they will prioritize the super freak talent over the aging, maybe washed guy. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, it was just a thought because I'm overexposed. And like JSN, I've got him in almost every league, 4 of 6 leagues, I think.
There you go.
And like, I want to hold him, but at the same time, what if I could get a bunch of like 2 firsts? I don't know. I plug it in. I use ETR
I
as
think
trade calculator.
A lot of times, it's the old sell down, but get some profit, or use them to sell up. Like if you feel like you could use, a couple other, what if him and Zay Flowers could get you Puka? I'm just making it up. It's like, I think on paper that's a win for them because they get JSN and Zay Flowers for Puka. That's probably more value, but you're selling up and you're getting the absolute, kingmaker type of thing. It's just an example. I'm just saying you can always look at a number of different ways to make JSN pay. He has the value. You don't necessarily have to just sell him for picks. I sold, JSN in one league. I really love JSN. It's a 10-team double super flex, so you can start up to 3 quarterbacks.
Wow.
So 10-team, 30 starting quarterbacks could be started. Quarterbacks are pretty valuable. I've got Anthony Richardson and like Russell Wilson and Tua or something. It's like some real sad stories in my quarterback room. So I use JSN where I've got like a lot of wide receivers. I got good wide receivers. And I can only start 2 plus a couple flexes. It's a weird league. Long story short, I used JSN to get me to Trevor Lawrence. It's like I got other stuff too. It wasn't just straight up, but I used the JSN piece to incorporate so that I could get to, to Trevor Lawrence. And so,
cool.
You can look at it a lot of different ways. How can I use the super high value of JSN to help my team? Sometimes just selling them for, other things that could work for you. A quarterback is certainly one of those things.
I'm very overweight at this point across all the formats in the Jaguars passing offense right now. So that's fun to hear, dude. He's yeah. All right.
Let's go. I'm ready to be wrong yet again. I've been wrong like 3-4 years in a row.
Dude, I do tend to overweight coaching impact, but I'm like, Liam Cohen, this guy can scheme, and it's a nice little receiver core there. Like, yeah, I'm pretty pumped. All right, so
I think that's smart. Hopefully, let's be right once on Trevor Lawrence, please. This would be good.
Right.
Just one time. One time, dealer.
I think I know where we're gonna go with this, but just keeping on the theme of like selling receivers, I think this is wide receiver 1 Jameson Williams year. I think he's just okay. You tweeted out. When was this? When you tweeted out, so-and-so, I'm blanking on which guy it was. Who did you say? You tried it out. So-and-so is the wide receiver 1. And then you just sort of said, it was in this class. Was it Egbuka? Might have been Egbuka at one point. Yeah. You just said it. And then you were like, I'm going to just see how this feels. Now I put my name next to it. I kind of think Jameson Williams leads. I think he's a fantasy wide receiver 1 this year, and I kind of think maybe he leads that team in targets. I think like they're talking about wanting to throw the ball downfield more. I know, and I'm not like out on Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's great. This is one
of those Quentin Johnston, Bijan Robinson moments for you.
Yeah, maybe it might be. It is.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
The thing. I've been. Yeah, it is. But I have been also interestingly curious about Jameson because if you look at the way that he doesn't need to lead the team in targets to return value and to be dope. All he needs is really like 6. You like that? I know, I got you. 6
just the confidence in you saying that is just like it's a knife. All right, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I could be full of shit. I've been wrong many times before, but here's the thing: like he doesn't need that much because he is a downfield player. He's a big play player. what did he take like a reverse or like a basic simple little jet sweep handoff for 60 in the playoffs? Like he's a pretty exciting player where all of a sudden he's gone. So, all he needs is enough opportunities in a given game to get the one. Because all he needs is one. All he needs is a 35-yard touchdown. And it's like, there it is. That's all I needed from him this week. If he can get that, not every week, of course, but you get my point. If he can get the requisite number of targets every week, is I guess what I'm saying, then he's going to get home often enough to be a really dynamic fantasy asset. And so for me, if you go back and just look at his game logs, he was not utilized very well early, and then late it was like, oh, there it is. And if he can just maintain that 6+ targets, 6 to 9 targets per game, he doesn't have to be a 10 target guy where he's getting 170. That's not gonna happen.
You're right.
He's not that guy. But like if he can get a solid 100, where it's 100 targets plus, where he's getting that number, then he's huge. It's when he gets those 2-3 target games, you blank out. It happens a couple weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks out of 4 or 5 weeks, and you're sitting there going, I can't even play this guy. Now you're playing the whack-a-mole, where he has a big game, you put him in, you take him out. He's not, you really want a set it and forget it type of guy. Truly, in best ball, it's one thing if you got a guy like that, right? But in a managed league, you don't want to be messing around with when do I, Gabe Davis was this for so long, right? It would be 0 or 4 touchdowns. It was like, and he had more zeros than he had touchdowns during the season. But that's what you don't want to be playing those games unless it's best ball or unless it's a super deep starting roster, where, start 14 or something, where, your back end flexes are best ball plays anyway, because you're playing everybody with a pulse. So you're just hoping for some upside at the bottom of your starting roster. Okay, that's fine. But if it's like start 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, or start 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, you're not so comfortable playing those types of players in your flexes. You want sure fantasy points. So I think it's really what happens in terms of targets. But they've got a lot of mouths to feed in that offense with Amon-Ra, who's a target magnet. Laporta was earning targets the same type of way, for most of his first 2 seasons. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs he's the same type of player as Jameson, where you throw it to him and all of a sudden he's gone. So I think it's going to be hard for him to really return that huge wide receiver 1 upside, but it's in the cards because he's so explosive.
So, I was more cautious in the way that I wrote about this. PFF.com, identifying potential 2025 WR1s. And I did explain the process with JMO, why I think he can do it. This is like in March or something. But I was more like, this is his path. Whereas now I just, declared it. Anyway, all right. So JMO, if he does peak, I think for you, he's an obvious sell.
Just, yes. Yeah.
No?
I did.
Or am I nailing you down too hard there?
No, I think that's right. I mean, I don't know about an obvious sell, but it depends on the value, I think. But I'd have to look at where exactly he's going right now.
Okay.
But yes, I think in general, yes.
Okay. So with that, I think we've kind of, I guess I got Bears and Ben Johnson and all this stuff on my mind. We touch on this really quickly. Watching these kind of older guys, we'll use DJ Moore as the example.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on Luther Burden, but he got decent draft capital. There's a lot of negative chatter around DJ Moore. If you're not like fully in on one of these guys, like the Luther Burden type, but the drumbeat is kind of showing you maybe he might actually be. They might actually at least intend to make him the guy over the veteran. Do you, as the dynasty player, do you tend to listen to this, or do you just stick with your like, no, DJ Moore is a proven guy. He's going to go get 1,000 yards again.
DJ Moore may or may not, but I do think it's hard to sell DJ Moore. When you were talking, I was like, I was thinking, is he going to ask me if I'm selling DJ Moore? And it's like, you can only sell into the market, right?
Yeah.
Like in other words, if the market does, it's the Anthony Richardson thing all over again, where I want to sell Anthony Richardson, but there has to be a buyer. Yeah. It's like, so the same thing with DJ Moore. It's like if everybody's feeling the same thing about DJ Moore, where nobody is confident that he's going to have this big season. And is he going to resign? Are they going to release him? Are they going to trade him? I'm not sure if he's happy there. Do the coaches like him? All these negative data points makes people scared to spend, and they don't want to spend on DJ Moore. I've even tried packaging DJ Moore with, I think it was with Zay Flowers. I don't forget for what, but in a few different offers where I was trying to upgrade. It's a shallower starting roster. I was trying to move up at the wide receiver position, basically move from Zay up to maybe the JSN range, Garrett Wilson range, using DJ Moore, trying to get there. People are not that interested. They're not that interested in that package. I can tell you that much. Or at least in this one league, so sometimes when I'm trying to move a DJ Moore or something like that, if there's no market, if people aren't excited to make the purchase, then it's really hard to get anything going in terms of an offer. So I think that's where I fall with DJ Moore.
Okay. All right. So we got some stuff to get through here, and we can go a little faster with these running backs. Devon Achane, man.
Yep.
I mean, he's lightning in a bottle, and they're talking about giving him more work this year. Are you buying him? I mean, he's got like the injuries, and there's so much stuff going on with Tua's brain, and like, is Mike McDaniels going to be employed and everything? I want to be in on this guy because I think he can have a monster season. But I think I'm getting a little. They did the Jalen Wright thing and Ollie Gordon, and I'm not in on Ollie Gordon, but I'm wondering, are the signs bad?
Well, we had this conversation on the Underground too, and I was on the Achane positive side because I think he wins no matter what. Like, if the offense is efficient and dominating, well, then he's going to be amazingly efficient. When the offense wasn't efficient last year, he was like second or third in the NFL in targets. It's like that plays too. So if they're going to get him the ball, if they're behind and they've just got some scrub at quarterback dumping it off to him, he scored 6. I think it was 6 receiving touchdowns or some crazy thing. Like, dude was making huge plays.
9.
Yeah, there you go. So he's dangerous. So when you throw him the ball in space, he's making big plays. So I just want that type of player on my roster. I do think there's a lot of fragility in that Miami Dolphins offense, both with, unfortunately, Tua's head, which is through no fault of his own, but it's a real danger zone, because if he's not, we've seen it, if he's not there, they're not as good. Now, I did point out that you have the out of dump offs to the running back, which are very profitable, especially for a player like him who can make big plays out of those sort of checkdowns. But yeah, it's a little bit dangerous. But for that, I think you might be able to get a discount. And Achane has RB1 overall upside whenever he plays, no matter the situation. So it's worth it.
Cool. Okay. I like it. Chase Brown was a dude who I was on, like, rookie year, and people really harped on his like pass pro grade, which was, I mean, it was good if you didn't. He had a good PFF pass protection grade if you ignored the Cleveland Browns game where I think I don't remember if he got blown up by Myles Garrett but at the same time, it's like, we want him running routes. Anyway? I didn't really understand. He went out there and they treated him like souped up Joe Mixon last year. We're like, Joe Mixon, they used to take him off the field for the 2-minute drill. They keep him on for like 3rd and 4th sometimes. And they still throw him the ball a lot, but like, Chase Brown never left the field. To me, I was like, Chase Brown is just going to keep kicking ass. They'll probably reduce the 2-minute drill. They'll probably do the same thing. That's probably their plan. That's Zach Taylor brilliance, is we'll take him off the field for 2-minute drill, whatever. But to me, it's like, this whole offseason, I've just been like, Chase Brown's a running back 1. He's going to keep kicking ass. He's Joe Burrow's guy. But it seemed like there was some concern about him. What is your take on Chase Brown?
I think you nailed it. I was concerned because I did think that it was possible for them to draft a running back. Like, if they had brought in Travion or something, well, that's not good, right? Then now you have real problems, right? Even a RJ Harvey type or something, but they didn't. Taj Brooks in the 7th or whatever it was. We all like Taj Brooks, but 7th round pick. They sort of have the meat shields of P. Ryan and Zach Moss, who I don't think are going to overtake him, right? But it's like,
and they restructured Moss.
You know what I'm saying? But neither one of those guys is taking Chase Brown's job. So Chase Brown survived the draft and the offseason in a way that, I mean, it couldn't have been better for him because even the backup that they drafted in Taj Brooks is a sort of a, an early down sort of technician between the tackle guy. Like, he has real utility in the NFL, but not as really as a, bell cow who's going to overtake him somehow, like a Bucky Irving type of thing. So I just don't see it. I think it's great for him. I think he has legit RB1 finish here unless he gets hurt. I think the usage was off the charts toward the end of the season. Maybe they slow that down a little, but even if they take a little bit off his plate, RB1 for sure, RB1 overall if he gets a little lucky in the touchdown upside, because that offense is going to have to cook. The other thing that we were talking about just recently on the most recent Dynasty Underground is these teams with bad defenses, Cincinnati qualifies. They're gonna have to score to win, man. They're not going to be able to take their foot off the gas. It's going to have to be, we need another touchdown. We're up 21-0. We need more. We're not going to survive. We have to go. So they're going to be playing in these shootouts and from behind, and even went ahead, keeping the pressure on all season because of their defense. And it's a consolidated target tree with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown. It feels so consolidated and perfect for Chase Brown to have a gigantic season. I said, they stay healthy, we stay wealthy, because this team, if they can stay healthy, you're gonna ride all these guys to championships.
Dude, Trey Hendrickson. So they're two starting defensive ends from last year. Sam Hubbard retires.
Right.
Trey Hendrickson is swearing like blood oaths that he will never take a snap for them again. Like, it's anyway. All right, yeah.
Hashtag so not good. That. Not good.
Dude, not good. So let's say you are good. Let's say you've got a team that is ready to contend for a championship, but you're trying to add players. We do have players, speaking to the market, we do have players that are readily available to us because of where they are at the point of their career. Alvin Kamara, he's old, but he just keeps racking up the touches. And in a lot of these leagues, forget PPR, we're talking about points per carry. Like, he's still just doing it. If you are in a championship, if you got a championship team, are you rolling the dice? I know this is very player specific. Are you rolling the dice on Alvin Kamara?
I've been wrong on Alvin Kamara the last couple of years. I'll be wrong again because I'm pass on Alvin Kamara. Here they've got, Kendre Miller, who supposedly is dead. They draft Devin Neal, who I don't know if he's good or not, but there's two live bodies there. They have no quarterback. They do have some wide receiver weapons. I'm not sure. There's a bit of dysfunction there. I think it could be one of those seasons where Kamara just all of a sudden is like, this is not worth it. We're losing. The last year kind of masked it because they got off to this surprising, like, fluky start where they were like 5-0 or something. Even though they weren't good, they got off to this amazing start, and they weren't good. So now if they get off to their regular start where they're 1-4, I don't know how much Kamara is going to want to play for all that. I just don't know, man. I'm very, very dubious about the Saints in general. Also, he's a 30-year-old sort of pass-catching running back. I mean, at some point, a bet against Kamara has to be right. I don't know. I've been wrong so much that I feel like I'm not the right person to be giving the advice here. So, but that's the thought.
No, you're just sticking with the process. Like, why invest long-term capital into a guy who is like, if he does something, it's this year, and then we're out. I was having somebody was trying to get Darnell Mooney and Charbonnet from me for Kamara, and I'm like, I see the upside, but I think Mooney. I'm pumped on Michael Penix. That guy is a trebuchet. Like, he is just going to be launching ball. I mean, if they get competent quarterback play, I'm pretty excited about the Falcons offense. Anyway,
yeah.
Back to Ben Johnson. This is a theme, evidently. We mentioned him earlier on. DeAndre Swift. This is like the classic, looks like he's the high-volume starter guy, and he keeps getting second chances to be the guy. He has disappointed. He has frustrated. During the Detroit Lions Hard Knock series, you saw Deuce. Was it Deuce? No, it wasn't Deuce McAllister. Who was the was it another Deuce? Staley, right? Thank you. Yeah. Staley he's like trying to get DeAndre Swift to just execute the run play and run between the tackle and the guard, and he's just bouncing it outside and he's taking it in for a touchdown. And you see he's got like the play sheet and Swift's celebrating and he's like, you scored, but you have to do the right thing. You're not going to be faster than everyone in the regular season. You are right now. It's the preseason. You cannot, but even when anyway, Swift, he's so fun to watch, especially when he was with the Eagles. He did that massive offensive line, and he's a little mouse running around in there. Anyway, yes. I like watching him. I don't know if he's good, but he's back with Ben Johnson, and they got Kyle Monangai, who I am told will be the running back 2 with this team. He's going to bounce my guy, Roschon Johnson.
Roschon, yes. Yeah,
I don't know what to think here, man.
I would prefer DeAndre Swift to Kamara. And I think a lot of people would have it the other way. So in Dynasty, I'll take DeAndre Swift, who's 26 years old, who, by the way, in his 5 years in the league, guess how many times he's finished as outside the top 20 running backs in PPR?
Outside the top 20 in his 5 years. He's finished outside the top 20. I'm going to say this is a good one, man. I'm going to say twice. He's finished outside twice.
Only once, and he was the RB21.
Damn.
So he's been a top 21 running back every single year. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
That is crazy. I didn't
I wouldn't have believed that if you told me that. And he's basically scored 200 fantasy points every single year, depending on how your scoring is. But like I look at it how you will. But he's been good for 200 every single year. And running back 18, 15, 21, 20, 19. So, and now he's got presumably a better offense, a better opportunity, better coach, better quarterback, better opportunity in terms of how much he should touch the football than he's ever had. If he can just stay healthy, I think he's a clear RB2 and upside from there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sold. We've been talking about the one where we were talking about the 1.08 earlier.
Yes.
In this, and this is kind of that's the RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson range.
Yep.
Give me your thoughts on those two guys, both what you expect in year one and what you expect through the duration of their rookie contract. And I may be asking way too much in that, but I'm asking it anyway. And for the listeners, if you did not see, the Denver Broncos did in fact sign J.K. Dobbins, who I poo-pooed last year and who you were right about. You left the light on for him. He came home. You had a nice moment.
Yeah. Yeah. JK, God bless him. I mean, he's such a great player. He's been dragging that leg around for several years. He got a $5 million contract. Hopefully that sets him up because he deserves it. He's battled, and he deserved to make a lot more money in his career than he ever did. So here's to JK Dobbins. Love you, brother. In terms of RJ Harvey, Lord knows if you listen to any of my programs or any of the Underground's programs or heard me talk ever before, you know that I go 6 to midnight for RJ Harvey. He's like my favorite running back prospect. He's so dope. He's so much fun. It's just like the more I got to know RJ Harvey's game analytically and then on film, it's like, dude, this guy's so much fun. I can see why, what was it? The other team that was interested in him and Denver. Who's the other team that was like clamoring for him? I can't remember now. It's slipped my mind.
I don't know.
There was another team that wanted him really badly, and of course I can't remember who it was. Regardless. Anyway, so I can see Carolina? Carolina. It was Carolina. So Carolina loved him too. They were thinking about trying to make a move for him. Yeah, fascinating. But RJ Harvey is that player, goes in the second round. Absolutely love him. There are some red flags. He's a little smaller. He's old, fifth year. There's some red flags. He's carrying around a few red flags. And as we've pointed out in the past, a lot of the running backs, Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Royce Freeman, right? You can look at a class, and those were all top 3 round guys, first round picks in their rookie drafts. That's where those dudes went, and they failed. They've completely crapped out. And you're going to see that from somebody somewhere, whether it's Quinshon. If all 5 or 6 or whatever these
I should have
guys,
included him.
But all the guys who get drafted, Travion, Omarion, Genty, all 6 of the guys that were drafted in the first 3 rounds, if they all hit, that'd be new. That'd be a cool thing. So someone is, and so there's the idea that I just know that one of these 6 guys, 2 of these, 3 of them may actually completely underwhelm and fall short. Obviously, with J.K. Dobbins being brought in, it raises the specter that RJ Harvey could be that guy potentially, right? If he doesn't quite get on the field fast enough, if they trust the veteran, a couple of these things could happen. That would not be great. But I do suspect RJ Harvey to kind of be a stud because he looks that way. And has there ever been a better fit when you see him play? I mean, he even had the same type of colors in his college uniform as Caleb Johnson, the Pittsburgh Steelers, a big, bruising, downhill runner, a la, Najee Harris and Jerome Bettis and Franco Harris. I mean, he just sort of falls right into line as a Pittsburgh Steeler running back. Absolutely love him. Super young, should be able to grow into the role, should be able to get a second contract. Caleb feels like the much better long-term investment at the running back position in Dynasty, despite the fact that I absolutely love RJ Harvey. I think it's Caleb in Dynasty for me.
Interesting. Okay. I think Caleb Johnson this year, I think he might have a good chance of outproducing RJ Harvey. Listen to the way I'm saying that, qualifying like crazy. Caleb Johnson's probably going to outscore RJ Harvey in year 1. He's just going to run the ball a boatload. I think that they're just going to. Well, I also like Jaylen Warren.
I was going to say he's got some competition there, right? So it's look, RJ Harvey, if he can get some of that pass game role too. So if it's really that RJ Harvey is like 50-50 in the run game stuff with a guy like Dobbins, I don't think Estime and McLaughlin will necessarily push their way onto the field over Dobbins if he's healthy. So let's just say they sort of share that, but RJ Harvey gets the 70-ish% of the pass game stuff and he's able to be that guy. That's a very fruitful spot.
You're right.
If the question is, what if he doesn't get that now? And he's maybe even a 60-40 in the run game stuff, but he kind of loses all the pass game stuff to McLaughlin or something. That's bad. So I see the different outcomes that could happen with RJ Harvey. And look, if he can get the majority of both of those things, just over 50% of both the sort of the early down stuff plus the pass game hurry up stuff, it should be good in that Denver offense.
Okay. Shout out to your old Undroppables guy, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Adam Hutchison. He did a great evergreen article. Yep. Over at 4for4 a couple of years ago. It's about Christian McCaffrey, but he put a bunch of running back age data in there that I absolutely love to review. I do think Harvey, it's really hard to apply it to him because he did the position switch thing. Like he hasn't been, so Hutchison's thing for the listeners is running back. Their production tends to decline, not with touches, but with age more so, and pass productivity, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I do love RJ Harvey, and I got him he might be my most exposed running back in the rookie class right now. So nice. I'm in. I think Caleb is just going to be very efficient on his rushing touches. Anyway, whatever. Okay. We touched on him earlier, but Bashal Tutin, Travis Etienne. Are you buying the coach speak on Travis Etienne for this season? And does that just mean we go get Tutin and we expect him to kick ass in 2026? Or
I am buying this Travis Etienne thing. I made a statement that I think Travis Etienne is one of the best buys in the NFL right now. I mean, he really is. He's so cheap. I actually overlooked him too much in these startups, and I was kicking myself. I made the mistake. I think Travis Etienne, around ahead of his ADP in startups, is an absolute smash button. I should have never let him fall and let anybody else get anywhere close to him at that value. He's a former first-round pick with speed. I'm not saying he's that good. I mean, I understand he's got limitations as a runner, but in a pass-happy offense where he could get who knows how many targets from this new offense where you love the offensive coordinator situation, right? We've seen him do wonders with other backs in the past. Look, I think there's a pathway for him. We're fading a former first-round pick for a fourth-round pick with a fumbling problem. It's like, okay, I get it. We have rookie fever, but look, Bashal Tutin is no lock to take anything from Travis Etienne. He might, but certainly no lock.
That's okay. So just shout out to you there, man, because that's the be ready to be wrong mindset where it's you're adjusting on the fly, or not on the fly. You
Yes.
got new information and you're adjusting. That's fucking awesome. And you did this. I actually this came to mind. Remember you talking about doing a startup with Chalk, I think last year, and you were like trying to get Anthony Richardson at like 110 or whatever, and you got sniped and you got Mahomes instead or something like that.
Right.
And hey, that's us. And now it's anyway. So shout
That's
out to
right.
you.
That's exactly right. We were so pissed off. We made this move to get him and we didn't get him, and it's like, what are you mad about? You win, So sometimes when you're wrong, you still win. That's the beautiful thing. It's like, don't worry about it. Just let the process hold you up. You'll be just fine.
So buy lows. Rachaad White, Najee Harris. To me, Najee Harris just seems like he's just going to keep puttering along for like 3 more years.
Yeah.
And we're already putting dirt on his grave, starting in like week 12 when Omarion Hampton takes over. I don't know. I'm inclined to buy him. And Rachaad White, to me, he's 6 foot, 215, whatever, and he can catch passes. I think he's going to stay in the NFL for a while. He might lose his job again, but that's a running back archetype that coaches, they just want to have on the roster.
Yeah. It's, Rachaad White feels a little like Antonio Gibson, where it's a guy maybe we wanted to be better than he is, and the coaches don't love him as much as we do in fantasy. Speed, receiving back, big body, where we just don't have enough nuance to carry a backfield. And when he's the second fiddle, it's like he's easy to replace. And I think that's kind of what Rachaad White's, destiny is here. And I'm not sure I love that. Najee, same thing, man. I mean, it's like, not same thing, but same thing in terms of like, I'm not sure that you want to be investing in a player that is eventually, especially this year, is more likely to cede opportunities as the year goes on, as opposed to gain opportunities as the year goes along. You might have something early on and think, look what I've done. I got this Najee. Look at him go, baby. And then later in the year, it turns into the Omarion show where Najee is getting, 5 to 10 touches a game, not really paying off on the value that you spent, looking for a new home next year, wondering exactly where that's going to be. Probably doesn't have a starter's chair available to him ever again in the NFL. Probably neither does Rachaad White. So these guys are both probably the types of backs that we're looking at that have just been churned through the league, and you probably are looking elsewhere. Now, again, at some point in a startup, I always say later on, I would draft Rachaad White, of course, but I don't think that I'd necessarily be looking to maneuver a way to get him unless, again, I win that trade and I can get him thrown in or something. Then sure, of course.
Yeah. That's fair. And, with Najee being like, he can play on 3 down. The guy he kind of invokes for me is like Frank Gore.
Yeah.
But let's say he does have the Frank Gore where he's like playing for like 12 years or whatever. Frank Gore wasn't like fantasy relevant. He was just giving us all a headache because when it was crunch time, like he was in there getting some of the high value touches that was just, it was enough to be a pain in the ass. But it's not like he was, scoring a bunch of points.
It's, had they done the Caleb Johnson thing and had Najee, I'd feel a little bit better about it. A 3rd-round pick as opposed to a 1st-round pick. I think Omarion being a first, right? It's kind of like, dude, we spent $5 million 1 year on you. We spent a 1st-round fucking pick for this guy. He playing, So it's like, I think it's a little bit of a harder case to make that he sort of withstands the Omarion pressure.
So, all right. Speaking of late round players, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. This guy is so interesting.
Yes.
I'm blanking on which guy I heard. So there was some analyst, man, who was really early in the process who mentioned like what this guy went through, where he like the NCAA just said like, you don't get to play this year. He redshirted, but the team gave his number to another player, and so the NCAA like counted. They were like, no, that's you on the field, and he's like, no, I was on the sideline, dude, and the NCAA wouldn't budge on this, and so they counted his redshirt season.
That's crazy.
Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. So he got to play like 2 games his last season, or maybe it was 1 game.
Right.
It was really good. He's 24. It isn't awesome. But just the little positive I'm always tweeting about, or anyway, I like Ben Standig. Standig's great. But he's talking about, that he looks good. He's a little bit bigger than some of the coaches thought. Anthony Lynn said that when he got him in-house. Anthony Lynn saying, actually, I think of him as an A back. He's a guy, I'm grouping him with Brian Robinson, not with like Austin Eckler. And it's like, and they talked all year about wanting to replace Brian Robinson. I'm trying not to do the Roshan Johnson thing with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, but I am doing it.
This is different. And I'll tell you why. Because he's a 4th round rookie pick. You should have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on every dynasty roster.
Yes, dude.
Look, if you love a guy like this, you can get him for free. You should just be picking him in the 4th round every single time. Like this is an absolute smash button. I'm with you 1,000%. I can tell you that I think the first time I even heard of him, like I think I've seen his name like somewhere, like, doing my rankings. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is. I don't know. So I didn't rank him. And then at some point it was like, in one of my leagues, I think it was Justin Boone. I think I mentioned it too. It was like, he made a move for him or something. I said, anytime he does something, I always look, I'm like, who the fuck is he doing? And, or he drafted him, something like this. And I was like, well, now I need to know who that guy is. Cause he's fucking smart. And so I did the research. I'm like, oh shit. So he's kind of good, but he had something fucked up happen in the NCAA. Then he got drafted to this sort of ambiguous backfield. Hey, I've seen stranger things. This feels a little Julius Chestnut to me, where he's got some skill. Look, Julius never got on the field, but had he got on the field, he might have been good. It's just that simple. And so with Merritt, the way that they're talking about him is, if Brian Robinson were to get hurt, it wouldn't be the Eckler show. Eckler would still be Eckler.
No.
Eckler would still be, his role would increase a little bit, but he'd still do all the things he does on the field, which is pass game stuff, all that stuff. He'd hold on to that. But Merritt would likely take over. So he maybe, even though he looks like he's 3rd on the depth chart, he's really 2nd at that role on the depth chart for a team with a dope quarterback. The Alfred Morris corollary sticks for this guy. This is an absolute upside pick. So in the 4th round, easy smash button. You're
cool.
You're not being foolish.
Cool. Okay. Broad question for you here on the tight ends. This tight end class looks like it kicks ass.
Yep.
Like, I think I remember you saying a couple months ago that you thought that there would be a record number of tight ends that went in like round 1 and 2 and 3, because they typically average like 1.5 or something like that first 2 rounds or something.
I have the
so record number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't take much.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like 10 or what have you, but it's like this class seems to be very strong. Colson Loveland, which shout out to me for comping him to Sam Laporta way early on. Tyler Warren, I think he's going to be good. I really would prefer Daniel Jones, which is kind of nauseating to say, but I don't. Ironically, I was pumped about Loveland forever, and I really didn't draft him a whole lot because I ended up going after Elijah Arroyo and Harold Fannin, and then later I think maybe I grabbed the Terrence Ferguson share. But I didn't even mention Mason Taylor there. I mean, this seems like it's a very good group. Now, a very good group could be relevant in 2 years, maybe. So maybe it doesn't matter and we trade for them then. But what do you think?
They're probably all bad. Okay.
Yeah, so there we go.
They're probably all bad, just to bring it all home. So that's the attitude that I have with it. They're probably all bad. But I've generally said, look, why am I going to spend up in the 1st round for tight end when I might have gotten the best one in the 3rd round? And that would be Terrence Ferguson, Arroyo. You can put Taylor in there. I don't think he's the guy, but again, I'm ready to be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong. It's probably him. So Fannin, Terrence Ferguson, and Arroyo, I love drafting those guys. And the thing that Mason Taylor gave me, so here's the way I played the tight end position in rookie drafts all year, and we'll see if I was right or not. This I don't know, but this is how I played it. I did have a strategy. I faded the 1st round tight ends. I'm not taking a tight end in the 1st round. When Loveland and Warren fell to me at value in the early 2nd, I think I got Warren and Loveland at like 204, 205. It's like crazy. I'm like, okay, sure. Yes. Great. Push the button on those guys there. It happens a couple of times. Every now and again, they'll fall through. Great. Pick them. And then I used Mason Taylor as you pointed out, as soon as Mason Taylor got drafted, I knew it was going to go Arroyo and Ferguson, and sometimes Fannin would go a little bit later, but it was going to go, pretty quick with those guys soon after the floodgates open. Sometimes that would happen around the 207, 208. Other times it would happen around the 301, 302, where those tight ends would start to go. So depending on where I was, I'd just sort of play the game of chicken with the tight ends. And as soon as Mason Taylor would go, I would either be in position because I have a pick coming up, or if I didn't, I would sort of scooch up or buy a pick to get in line for an Arroyo or Ferguson soon thereafter because they're coming. Some leagues maybe don't even need a tight end, so I didn't care. I didn't take one in that, but when I wanted a tight end, that's what I do. And you're just basically moving slightly up in the third round to get a guy that might have as much upside as any of the other guys. And so I thought that was a tremendous amount of value to be able to do that. So I agree with you. That's how I played it. By the way, the average number of tight ends taken in the first 3 rounds of the NFL since 2016 is 5.3. So you make a good point. Average in the first round, 1. Average in the second round, 1.8. Average in the third round, 2.6. So really not very many, as you point out. So I think you're right. I think the tight end class could be good. But again, we see so many failures at the tight end position, even with tight ends that are good. Do we really think that Michael Mayer is a bad player? I don't think so.
Dude, free him. Michael Mayer. I want to see him somewhere else. Yeah.
Probably a good player. It's not like he's a bust, but he's a bust for fantasy for sure. Kyle Pitts, bust. Kincaid, bust. They're actually starters. So where we put them as busts sometimes, we're really looking for elite tight end 1 upside. Otherwise, they're all kind of the same. And it's more likely that they're either true busts where they hardly even play or, just more like everybody else. They're probably not an elite one of them. If there is, I can't tell you which one it is. I guess most likely Loveland, but Arroyo and Fannin have some dope profiles to lean on going forward.
Yeah,
and we love Ferguson.
Yes. I hearing also that like Clint Kubiak was the one who was like, "Hey, is Elijah Arroyo actually an X receiver?" Like that,
right?
You gotta calm yourself down. But like that's I heard them when John Schneider he initially said like some of the guys or something asked about this, and then it came out later that it was Clint Kubiak that was asking that. It was like, all right, I'm kind of pumped here, but. With Fannin, hearing you talk about it like in the pre-draft process, where you're like, I'll take the most productive guy ever. Like, I'll just give me that guy. It reminds me, I went in, not all in, but I was like pretty excited about. So Fannin, to his credit, was at least Bowling Green State. He was at least FBS.
Right.
2 years ago, Dallin Holker. CSU Ram, which I think is FCS. Is it? I gotta look this up now.
Not a college football guy, but I remember this Dallin Holker.
Oh, it is FBS. Okay, so yeah, he might be Harold Fannin might be Dallin Holker,
sure,
which is uber productive. Holker led FBS tight ends in targets, receptions, and yards in his final year, which is super fucking cool.
Yeah,
that could be Fannin, but at the same time, Fannin is like, he's really exciting, man.
And Tyler Warren could be Michael Mayer. So it's like the equation is not solved at the tight end position, which is why I don't want to invest steep capital to get there, because oftentimes the tight end 1 that we have at tight end 1 is not the tight end 1 at all. It was Laporta. Right? It was Laporta. It wasn't, Mayer. It was not Kincaid. It was not Pitts. It's not whoever was the tight end 1 when Kittle was drafted. It wasn't the tight end 1 whenever Kelsey was drafted, right? It wasn't any of those guys. It was the guys later in the draft. And I'm not saying that I'd rather straight up have them, but I'd certainly rather have them straight at their value. If they're all available, give me Loveland, then give me Warren, then give me, right? It's like go down the line. But they're not all available at the same picks. I have to give up Jackson Dart or Emeka Ibuka to get Loveland or Warren. Get the hell out of here. I ain't doing that. I can't. I can't do that. I can't, unless you tell me he's Travis Kelce. Sure, of course I'll do that. But nobody can tell you that. They can't do that.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to let you go here. This is I got one more for you. This is just a Patriots thing. Drake May is out here talking about this guy, what is his name?
Chisholm.
Efton Chisholm III.
Yes.
Efton Chisholm III.
Super lunch pail name.
He said he was like, I think he caught like 50 passes or so. And now who is he? Do you know any? This is your team. Can you teach me about this guy? Who is he?
So yes, I can. He I was just looking at him. Hold on, I have him right here. It's funny you mentioned this. This wasn't on the show sheet. I didn't have it handy, but I just looked him up because I was like, Chisholm is. Come on now, let me find him. He's right here. Here he is. So yeah, I looked him up.
He's Eastern Washington.
Yeah, he's Eastern Washington. But someone gave me the clip where they pointed out that this is the new Ladd McConkey or whatever, and I thought that was, of course, pretty hilarious. Why won't it log me in? This is...
Well, you know who he is.
Who?
I mean, unless my mind is completely failing me here, I believe that there was a very successful... If you're doing the Ladd McConkey thing where you're like, you said the white slot receiver thing.
Yes.
Cooper Kupp was an Eastern Washington grad.
Great point. Yes, he's Cooper Kupp, right? Exactly. He wasn't as dominant as Cooper Kupp. Look, here's the thing. He's the hottest
Kupp's at
right now.
17 records.
He did. He was out of control. This is a 5th-year player. Chisholm. He's gonna be 24. He's almost 24 years old. He had in his most recent season, his 5th year, he was dominant with 146 targets. 120 receptions, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns. Even PFF graded him out at 92, which is crazy. His yards per route run in his final season was 3.45, which is dope. But he did that at a 5.7 ADOT. Not good. And 5.7 ADOT. And in his first 4 years, he was at 1.88, 2.21, 1.69, and 2.05 yards per route run. Fine, but nothing exceptional. His ADOT for his career is 7.1. He only had 1 year over 8.5 ADOT, so that was his freshman year. So, yeah, there's not that much to hang your hat on, but I think he's certainly going to be an NFL player. I think that's what they've realized, that this kid is, very quick he looks like Ladd McConkey, right? So, I mean, he looks like that type of player. He just can't possibly be Ladd McConkey, can he? Right, of course not.
Well, thank you, Jax. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Are you kidding? This was fun. You take over the show every time we do this. We don't announce it that you're going to all of a sudden be the host of the show, but this is what we do. We have you just do this. This is so much fun. You're amazing. I'm so grateful to have you on. You're doing so much out there. I can remember, not to get emotional, but I can remember when you first sort of came into my vortex. You were not part of the industry. You were not part of anything. And, you threw a sort of a little bit of a line to me. And I know that I was one of the first people to sort of, give you some attention, some advice, some pushing in the right directions. And, because I really believe in who you are. And I know that you're a great human being. And for that was the reason, obviously it's clear to see your talent, but I love you as a person. You're a great person. So thank you so much. And tell everybody now where you're doing all your work and where they can find what you're doing, because you are a connector. You're the man. Tell them where they can find you.
Well, I reached out to you because you're the man, and I'm forever grateful for you just answering my DM. That was very nice of you. We'll save the heartfelt pleasantries. To the audience, Jax is the best. But you can find me if you want to find my work. You can find it at pff.com, and I'm doing a lot of the blurbs at rotoworld.com. I got an injury article that I did last season. Well, I'm not sure what this season's gonna hold, but you can find me on Twitter or Twitter X, whatever, at Nic Bodiford NFL, NIC BODIFORD NFL.
Yeah, the NIC, very important Nicks. Those are the Nicks you got to watch out for. The K, who needs an extra K? You don't need the K there. It says everything with just the NIC. That's the way you do it. Nic Bodiford coming on, absolutely smoking the mustache contest for the season. clear first place at this particular point. I don't think it's particularly close. I think even if I got Warren Sharp himself on this program, he'd be jealous of what's going on today with that stash. So Jeff Fisher, also, no chance. Jeff Fisher wishes he could do what you're doing here today. But on that note, on behalf of everybody here at the Undroppables, on behalf of everybody here at the Undrafted, on behalf of the greatest podcast producers to ever walk the land, Mr. Michael P. Duncan and Travis Seal, you have been joined by the great Nic Bodiford. I am Jax Falcone, and we are out.